Oh, here we go. People, deluded. I'm back again. It's always nice to speak football with Jess. It's not nice because we all know the backdrop of our football club at this moment. How you doing, Jess?
Did you get a haircut?
Yeah, man. Don't blame me. Don't blame me. I always get haircuts. I always get haircuts. Always get haircuts. Always get haircuts.
Not like I don't think I've ever really like noticed before. Looks
Nah,
nice.
of course you notice that. No, I don't do that. I'm the most handsome YouTuber there is on YouTube, and Arsenal. Don't do that.
Accept the compliment.
I know. It's water for ducks back, man. It's like telling Bukayo Saka he's a good footballer, man. How do you feel that way, man? I'm a handsome guy, man. Don't stare at me too much, man. We've got some content to go over, man. How are you doing? I'm not gonna lie, yeah. People have been saying you've been going missing on your channel owing to our results.
It's not even the results, guys. Seriously, I'm just going through a lot right now, like personally, and just like, yeah, don't want to get into it, but I'll be back.
Nah, not on here.
I've been in the darkest hours of Arsenal on the channel and on other people's channels. So yeah, just give me a couple of weeks to figure my shit out because right now it's wild. But yeah.
Regardless, make sure you're following Jess. The link is in the title, let alone the bio. Smash the like button, any comments and all of those things, get them in. Where do you want to start, Jess, man? There's a lot. I've got some pre-prepared things. You always bring some things. Like where do you want to start? You want to start about the manager? You want to start about the results? Where do you want to start? Honestly, like,
I mean, I guess I'll just kind of start like with something that came up on the show I just did with Mo. And obviously we were in mixed company. So there were other people.
oh, you had to fight for Arsenal's lives.
I wasn't even fighting. I have no fight left. But they were talking about Chelsea and Chelsea's fans protesting the ownership and stuff. And it really just like hit me because I'm like, now they're disappointed in where they are. They're not happy with their recruitment, which I think we've all spoken about how Chelsea have bought a lot of players, $1 billion squad, all this type of stuff. And they're still well within reach of finishing in the top four. I think they're fifth right now. And they just beat Southampton and they're protesting. And I just thought to myself, if we were in their situation, would we be comfortable and like happy? And I think we would be. I think as a fan base, like we need to look at ourselves just a little bit. And this is a little bit micro because this is going away from our current results.
Go as far away as you need to, man. I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, the current results are like people want to get really bogged down in the minutia of the individual results, which we can. But I think this season is more of a reflection of maybe a lack of real like going after it for Arsenal, like a lack of
seizing the present, seizing the moment, just like Liverpool have done.
Exactly. And I just know if we were sitting where Chelsea were right now, a lot of people would be, well, we're a young team and da da da. They're in a similar position that we were in 3 seasons ago when we had bought 6 new players.
We're closer to Chelsea than Liverpool on paper. Like there's 13 points separating first and second, and 12 that separate second and 10th. But go on.
Youngest team in the league, and well within reach of finishing top 4. And after we did not finish in the top 4, there was all these excuses about why it was okay that we didn't finish there. And since then, we finished every single season missing out on targets. Every single season we've missed out on targets. We finished 8th twice and then missed out on targets the next 4 seasons. We'll miss out on targets this season as well.
I wish he was lying.
And I just think like as a fan base, we have kind of low expectations. I think that you're well within your right to want to wait and see how Arteta does things. You want to give the board the benefit of the doubt, all those types of things. But they've led us to a place of like every single season we miss out on things. And we're well off the pace. We're closer to 10th than we are to the title race, really. We're not able to score goals right now. And whether you can blame it on injuries, but we've talked about our lack of dynamism in the final third. We've talked about where there's games where we don't look like we can score goals. We've talked about, are we creating enough chances? We've talked about these things, whether we've had Saka and Martinelli or not. So I'm finding it very difficult, one, to watch our games because I'm feeling
Damn.
like they were really hard to watch. And I know most games are going to go pretty much the same. And if our defense does not show up, it's just a matter of are we going to lose or draw now because we can't score goals. And it's a strange one because I don't think that this is just a one-off season. I don't think it's just, well, things just didn't go our way. We're finishing outside of where we want to finish for 4 seasons in a row now. And I feel like we're just beyond the, oh my gosh, we have too many left backs. I'm just like beyond that. I'm like, next season, what's going to change? Same board, same manager, same players. What is going to change? Like, I'm really like, and going back to the Chelsea point is there where we were 3 seasons ago, and we were happy missing out on top 4 and finishing 5th and, young team, and it's fine in the process. They're not doing that. And I don't think we have to be like Chelsea, but I do think we need to look at the mirror and say, as a fan base, are we just happy to be in the conversation, or do we actually want to get beyond this? Because right now, we're not banter club, but we are creeping back into that situation.
I can't lie. I think we are, man. I think we are a banter club. I think people. I don't think we're a banter club. I think people look at that because what's annoying me is teams below us, the Chelsea's, Newcastle fans get at us now. Everybody gets us because some Arsenal fans on social media do the most. We don't win, but I think we are in the sense of some Arsenal fans. And we see them, Jess. We don't need to name names. We see them. We're the best team in the world. Arteta's the best thing since sliced bread. Our players are so good. This is so courageous that we're having to play Marino up front and we're still competing and doing this and that with the referee stuff. Ultimately, we ain't won. Me, I'm at the point where I don't even really, it's not that I don't care, but I just focus on these last 3 years. Improvement upon improvement upon improvement. 2022-23, fair enough. Attacking thing was there. Last year, we was great defensively. This year's regression, there's no way of shaping it. We can talk about referees and all these things, but isolated to what we can control. We haven't controlled it. We know when everybody's fit, Jess, our squad is tiny. We've seen what's happening. We've seen the reactive stuff in the January market where we didn't do everything. That told me everything. It all goes back to the summer. Mikel Arteta has shown me throughout his time at this football club that he can adapt. You can play attacking football. You can play defensive football. At this moment in time, though, you're stuck. You're doing the same things. I'm not even saying trying something else is going to work, but it feels to me you've got no choice. But regardless of that, we know how we're going to play. It's left, it's right, it's side to side. It's Marino at this moment in time dropping into midfield. Arteta, maybe he's changing. I know he's fucked and he's scared now because I've seen Zinchenko 2 games in a row playing midfield. The only great decision he made yesterday was taking off Calafiori because he would have definitely been our sixth red card of the season.
But even when we took him off, it was like, all of the whatever attacking impetus we had dissipated with Calafiori leaving the pitch.
See, he put a cross in though. we're in the pits of hell, man.
In a cross, and you have to question why. Like, not even question, but like, this is who we are. You can put in a good cross, but it's very hit or miss whether somebody will be there or not.
No one's there.
No one's there. But Calafiori was our biggest goal threat. Had the most like X factor in the final third. No offense, and like Ethan, I thought had a decent game yesterday, but even he's being triple teamed now. So it's like that you can't get him
knackered as well.
Yeah, and so I'm like, how have we gotten to this point where our left back is all we got? And a couple of seasons ago, yes, there was a lot of emphasis on our left back because Zinchenko was doing a lot of midfielding, but that's so different than your left back being almost like a striker. The commentators on my feed, we're talking about how, well, he looks like a striker right now. And I think that's the whole issue with the way that we play now is that it's not more of anything. We're not overloading midfield. We're not overloading anything. It's like there's an absence of the normal thing that's supposed to be there and something strange is replacing it instead of having more. When Jesus and Zinchenko were playing in 2022, 2023, we had 5 midfielders.
You know, it's peak when Jess is praising Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, he was. It was like having 5 midfielders, so we always had an overload in midfield. So we were able to pass through the gears and dominate games, especially in that area. Now it feels like there's nothing there. There's nothing there. There's just it's like we almost have like less. We have like 2 now. An extra forward is Calafiori, but what else is there?
The
There's
square pegs
nothing
in round
else
holes, man.
there. Yeah, and I'm just like, we've gone backwards. We've definitely regressed. And at this point, you would have expected us to have hit certain marks in terms of not only just off the pitch stuff, like where do we finish and things like that, but like having certain types of players in our team. And so my patience has run very thin because I can't, where I felt bad for us when we missed out on top four a couple of years, 3 or 4 years ago, I feel absolutely nothing except for the players because they look like they are shot. That
I'll
I
be
don't.
real. A couple of the players, at that.
A couple of the players look like they literally have lost their way. They literally look like they are just like dead, So it's tough to feel bad for us. And a lot of fans are doing up the, yeah, but you would have never expected us to have so many injuries. Why wouldn't you have expected us to have injuries? Where have you
Take
been?
it away, Jess, because when I say I'm a broken record, I'm shutting up.
Yeah,
Thank you.
of course we're going to have injuries. Not only, if you watch football, you will know that we're going to get injuries. Do you know how many teams have had like 10, 11, 12 players out? We have not even had an injury problem that Newcastle had last season where they had a bunch of kids playing. We haven't even reached.
I'm sure Liverpool had a madness a few years ago as well. So we should be learning from other people as ourselves. We were so lucky last year not to have injuries. We should have taken heed of that.
The fact that a lot of players or a lot of fans rested on the Saliba thing 2 seasons ago. Now it looks like the worst. It hasn't aged well because we were talking about we couldn't beat teams like West Ham away because we didn't have Saliba. First of all, like that was one injury. We had almost our best 11 that entire season, and people were actually playing well. Last season, we had even better injury issues, even better, like our injuries were fine. Why wouldn't you expect our luck to run out? And if we can't win when our luck is up, what do you think we're going to do when our luck is down? And it ran out this season. We went back to who we were. Remember when we had all the red cards a couple seasons ago where we went back to that. We have no players available to us, and we just prepared to fail. We just prepared to fail. And the players that we got playing now do not look like the players of a couple of years ago. I am worried. If Odegaard suffers the same fate as Martinelli and Zinchenko and Gabriel Jesus, we're in trouble.
He's not. That's the gaffer's son, man. He ain't.
But not even suffered.
And we both love him as a baller as well. But we've got to be honest. Odegaard, you're not doing nothing.
No, yeah, and it's like we can't afford to replace all these players. I know that people are like, well, the direction we should go in this summer is to replace Odegaard. Do you guys realize that if we replace Odegaard, it's not happening? But if we do replace Odegaard, then whatever money you think we're going to get a winger and a striker with, we ain't getting. That's not going to happen. So it just feels like that negative spiral, that dark, and maybe we start next season with a new striker and a winger and all of this sounds crazy, but you only get certain windows and our window is closing, in my opinion. And I'm not quite sure how you shake it up without shaking a lot. And I'm worried, like I am, because I think these players are a lot better than what they're showing. I think, obviously, you need to look at them and say, why aren't you doing enough? But when you see a team play at the levels that we have played at certain points last season and 2 seasons or 3 seasons ago, I'm having a hard time coming to grips with the idea that this is the best that they could do. You know what I mean?
Jess, I don't think you're lying, man. We said it in the summer. It's like we're either going to make mad progression or mad regression, whether it's the transfer window in the summer, whether it's January, whether it was Mikel Arteta and the recruitment staff failing to bring people in, whether it was a naivety around, the players in our squad that will be great across staggered moments of the season and over-reliance on Saka. There's not a single thing that we have been a problem that we've seen happen this year that we haven't known about. Yes, there's been red cards. Yes, there's been injuries. Now, Jess has so eloquently put the injury thing. I'm not even going to speak about that. People are going to say what they want to say. Yeah, we had injuries. We had this and that. And big up Skills because he's always here. Where is his comment gone? He made a comment about not our four best attackers. Had we have got a striker and a winger, they might have been injured too. But by that default, some players would have been available. If I'm completely honest with you, I think that's a cop out. And really and truly, we're only missing Saka and Kai Havertz on that front. Martinelli by default. We've engineered this. Thank the Lord for Wanyeri. We've like the last 2 seasons in an attacking sense. I think we were great. the 2022-23 last season. I think we were good defensively. This year, there's been no progression in any regards. I think Mikel Arteta has a lot to answer from purely on the coaching front when everybody's fit in terms of how we create chances. As dumb as it sounds, I think we're too focused on not losing games or not losing balls in certain areas of the pitch, and we're still getting counter-attacked and losing anyways. Teams know deep block, get chances, take them. We're uninspiring. We move the ball slow as well. There's a lot that Arteta has to look at. Of course, the board are doing fuckery. Of course, the players need to stand up to be counted. But one thing that annoys me about Arsenal fans is you've got to give credit where due. Liverpool, regardless of what you say, I do think there's bigger tests for Liverpool. I think it starts next season for Arne Slot because they're top. Contracts are running down. I think FFG has done them dirty, right? But a big thing people were saying was when City drop off, or if they have a drop off period, which they'll be back next year, we will be the ones to pounce. We haven't. We have not. That's the, yeah, we can find injuries and all of that, and all of these could be factors, but then we have to look at actually not what if, what could, what should, or what is, and all those things, and what actually is. We haven't taken advantage. People said Liverpool are going to fall off, can't rely on Salah, individual moments, we're 13 points off. There's no excuse. And for me, what annoys me is just like me and you, we were sat here, I'm sure, after the Newcastle game, whenever it's crunch time for the manager and the players, we sink or swim. You have to learn from the past and the regrets of it. You have to think to the future. But for me, we never, ever, ever, ever seize the current moment. Where are you at with the manager? Like, should he go? Should he stay? Where are you at?
I said at the beginning of the season that if he didn't win any trophies, he should go. And I stand by that. I just don't think that I can, in my heart of hearts, sit here and tell people that I feel like it's fine, even with all the context, that he shouldn't have won anything in the last 5 seasons. Do you know
Especially
what I mean?
Especially the cups.
I've been bitching about those cups for so long, not because it's going to change the way that people see Arsenal, because this team has never won anything. There's so many young players in this team that have never won anything. So making their first thing that they should win, the Premier League, and in the first 2 seasons, we were going up against really good City sides, was just like a suicide mission when you know you don't have the same level of talent that City had in the last 2 seasons.
And the small margins.
Yeah, exactly. They have the best coach that ever coached, and to a lot of people, I think it's Sir Alex Ferguson, but whatever. The best coach ever, and a team full of game changers and quality and stuff. We were going up against a giant, and you were saying that our first thing that we had to win was that, and no care for the Europa League, throwing that shit, no care for the domestic cups, throwing those, and he's not a good cup manager. I think I could say that. Like,
he's not a winner. Let's be real. Like, I can do the poetic thing. I'll give Arteta this. I think he's a good coach. I think he's, with all that dog stuff and creating the winning mentality, all of that stuff, you can do that. But all of that is geared towards actually winning, actually getting over the line. Yeah, you've won the English Super Cup, you've won the FA Cup. Getting over the line, you crumble. Like, you could look at the semi-finals and everything. You haven't done it, bro. Like, that's what we're trying to do.
What semi-finals? Like, we've only gotten into the semi-finals, I think, once since Mikel has been here, past the FA Cup. I think maybe
Klopp was getting to finals. Not that anyone's happy to get to a final and lose, but Donnies were doing that.
That's the reality, is like not even getting to finals, not even getting to semifinals, going out sad to like bad teams or teams that are not on our level, not even competing in some ways. Like, you could look at, we didn't really compete against Newcastle, did we? Like, it's not okay. And I'm starting to really feel like in any other profession, you would say that the mentality of anything starts from the top. And I do think it starts from the tippy top. I think it starts from the owners.
We'll get onto the owners, don't worry.
Yeah. And I think it trickles down. And when you make an appointment like Mikel, which he could be the genius of, whatever, the new school manager, whatever. But when you need to win and you want to start a project and you start it with a novice manager, you've already kind of told me what your vibe is. And I think it's just trickled down from there, because the decisions that have been made post hiring Mikel have showed me that the club is more concerned about saving money, getting to top 4, and just kind of getting into cruise mode there. They're not really trying to push for major honors, and that's concerning, because that Arsenal fans are not going to do enough to try to get them out. So that's like, we are kind of stuck, where we're
We're
at.
stuck, man. I've given up with the whole Kroenke out thing.
Yeah.
Like Kroenke is going, not going. They operate within the way they operate. I do think people, and do you like feel like people, some Arsenal fans have this whole, and I'm not talking about the hype of Mikel. Well, I'm not talking about people that are balanced, that don't think Arteta is the guy or think he's the guy, but mainly for the Arteta sexuals, the ones that he earns. I always say this: he earns 15 million a year at our club. He will earn a lot more if he starts at OnlyFans, even if he gets Odegaard and Calafiori involved. There's so much people that fancy Arteta, or if they don't fancy him, they're just in love with him winning for our club. If he stays at our football club and succeeds, great. If you go, it is what it is. I do think you're a good coach. I do think you're going to do good things in the game. I only care if you do it at this football club. Do you feel, though, there's a bit of a cult, though? Like, because I do think people act like Arteta is a damsel in distress. We have to remember, this is a relationship of convenience. You're learning on the job. They are happy with a manager that's going to do that. You do show some good positives. For me, really, with the 6 years and the whole 700 million thing, I don't really care at this point, because when you took over to this point, you've made mistakes, things have happened, we've got ourselves to second. It's these last 3 years and you haven't delivered. Why is it that when we win, it's all Arteta? When we lose, it's everything but him?
The cult is ridiculous. I was speaking about this in a group chat where all of their arguments are built around trying to protect the manager. Anytime that things don't go our way, it's
Arteta cartel, man. He's
chance and so missed that chance. And ultimately, this team is built in his vision and his brain.
They're doing what he's telling them to do.
Down the line, this is his team. He's responsible for a lot of this stuff, and there's so many little like layers to it. But one of the biggest layers that has come from Arteta's like weird like cult is the cult that is also attached themselves to Kai Havertz, and how people are trying to justify that signing as a decent signing, so much so that they're willing to throw any of our other players under the bus. I literally was having a conversation with somebody the other day that was saying, I'd rather sell Odegaard and keep Kai Havertz because Kai Havertz showed me something at the back end of last season. And I was like, we're just, as bad as Odegaard has been, surely if you had to get rid of somebody right now and recoup money, it would be the player that hasn't solved any problem for us ever. Surely, but
we probably make more money off Odegaard. There's more of a margin there. I don't know who's going to give us a transfer fee and money for Kai Havertz. We're kind of stuck with him. The latest one, I saw some people say we brought him in here to be a Swiss Army knife, which for club and country, I kind of get it. But no, we didn't. We tried to make him replace Xhaka. It did not bang. Short-term option became something long-term with him up front. People are just too dishonest when it comes to this football club. It fucking pisses me off.
The cult kind of like any bad decision, we can't just say, you know what? Because you have to be one way or the other. You either have to be
black and white,
or set it out, or you have to be like on him or off him. Like that's all. And it's like, well, if I admit that he didn't get this right, then that means that it starts to untangle some of the things that I've been saying in the past, trying to justify bad decisions. He has made bad decisions. Of course, he's made bad decisions. He's a novice and he has way too much power. I don't get why it's so hard to understand that. And I was on the last show that I was on, they were saying, it was a Spurs fan, so obviously they're seeing it through Spurs tinted glasses, but they were saying that they don't see any manager being able to come in and improve us. And I'm like, you don't even have to bring in somebody that's like Ancelotti. You need someone with a different set of eyes that can make us 5% better.
But just people will say who you bringing in, and it's the same logic when people say these same people say we need a striker. They will tell you Isaac or this one or that one. But if you can't get them, then what? You don't need to be a genius. It's not our decision. We all want Arteta to thrive. We're not actually saying sack him, but you can't sit here and act like his position. We all know it's untouchable for a variety of other reasons, but he's not shown enough to be backing him religiously. Purely for me, under the glasses now of fuck the rebuild. You've done that. Like you've got us to this level over the line. Can you do that? And even this, before I let you say what you're saying, Jess, using nonsense like Arteta sexuals is embarrassing. The only cult here is the one calling for his head, utter dribble. That is, you just want to hear what you want to hear. You're committed to what you want to hear, Bulgarian. There's cults on both sides, like every club. There's some people just committed to hating the gaffer and loving the gaffer. And then there's us in the middle ground. Let's stop the lies. But go on, Jess.
Yeah. And I know people get triggered by the Arteta sexuals thing, but it's just it's too black and white. And I just feel like we need to, common sense would say that it's much easier to get rid of the manager than it is to get rid of the players. You're not going to be able to get rid of all these players and give him a new team. And we shouldn't want to do that. He needs to succeed with the players that he's brought in.
And why would you not want Arteta to turn this around? I would prefer that. Like, I'm just simply saying for me, I'm not saying I'm pushing him out, but there's a conversation.
But at the same time, we are not in a position. I feel like there are a lot of Arsenal fans that as long as we make top 4, they will justify this nonsense.
Because they're context FC, which context plays a part. But when, like life, like in football, like you said, God, like hopefully whatever you're going through, you get better. But you just said, yeah, like, oh, you're going through something in your personal life. You're still here. The show has to keep going. There's never going to be ideal conditions in life and football. And even if exactly, and even if we need to, and it's a fallacy. And even if there was, we've seen seasons where we had no injuries, seasons where we've had one significant one where we've had injuries from the beginning. Either way, and disclaimer before people be stupid, we are not just blaming Mikel Arteta. There's everybody into this, but there's variables he is not controlling. Nobody put a gun to this guy's head, so we can't cry about the Kroenkes, even though we're going to get onto them. He liked the job so much, he took it, he rejected it once, took it the next year. Now signed a new deal for 15 million a year for a novice manager where you're doing well in certain aspects, but you could have been sacked for less. Let's not make out anybody is doing us a favor here.
He's the second highest paid manager in the Premier League and has won nothing except for an FA Cup at the very beginning. He's not doing us a favor. I get really tired of people speaking about Mikel like he's doing us some favor by staying here. And this whole idea of like, well, who's better that we can get? When you're like in a relationship, the worst thing you could do is stay with somebody that you know is not the right person because you're afraid to see what else is out there. You need to move. If as soon as you know that person is not enough or is not doing it, you move. That's it.
Shout me, I can do enough and a bit more, but gone.
And I'm a big advocate of failing fast. I think failing fast is so much better than sticking along with something that you're not quite sure. And always
use our YouTube channels to back up that point. I'm sure you did, rather than thought about it, you did it, saw what worked, just kept it moving every time.
And we're kind of beyond the potential thing now. You know, he's new in his position, but in order for Arteta to be the manager that we need, he needs to be a world-class manager. That's just the truth. When's the last time a world-class manager has a non-world-class manager has won the league? Usually it is a world-class manager. And so he's not that yet. And that's probably a big reason why we're not.
He does so much things good. He just shoots himself in the foot. And like you said, Jess, we're at that stage of it's over the line business. So naturally, we have to look at it harsh. And anyone that thinks we're being harsh, I promise you, me and Jess are not saying anything harsh than how these players felt last May, than how they are feeling at the moment, and how they're going to feel when it's all said and done. Discipline hurts in life. But we've been undisciplined across all aspects of this football club. You know what hurts a lot more than discipline? Regret, because there's nothing you can do about it. There's no point talking about how we were the best team in 2024. City won the league. There's no point doing up context and all of this. Liverpool have won the league. So where do you look at it then? We always talk about fine margins. There's no point chatting shit about what we are good at. Take the good and make it better. It's the small margins. It's seeing out games. It's having a plan B. Ironically, it's more or less playing against the same teams. Everything's gone wrong. Yes, injuries, red cards. Even in a couple of the games, we've had red cards. We made it happen against Wolves. There were times against Brighton. Brighton away, we should have killed it in the first half. Brighton at home, either side of that red card, we should have still nicked the points. It's now this that needs to be ingrained to get to where we need to get to. And a lot of that is on the gaffer. In the same way, we're in this same conversation because of him.
I think, one, for people that are in the comments now that are wedded to the idea of Mikel, they still feel like he should stay. What would be the moment that would make you say he needs to go? Because surely there has to be
this comment. This comment could be it. Big up Bulgarian Gooner, by the way, because he's always here. But bottom line for me is you give him the attacking signings in the summer and we can judge him next season. Changing him now doesn't make sense to me. I can't necessarily, again, for me, I don't think necessarily sacking him means anything. I don't think I don't think keeping him necessarily means we're going to reach the Holy Grail. Nothing guarantees success. And I'm just open to everything. But assuming he's speaking for everyone, what do you say to that then, Jess?
I would say that that's the scenario that we are in. We are not going to see a managerial change this summer. And I think we all know that in our heart of hearts, even if we are crying in front of Soba Training Center, they're going to keep him. So yeah, he needs to get the attacking signings. My worry is like, and I know we'll talk about it, sporting director, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, the context stuff.
But ultimately, the biggest difference for me between us and Liverpool is that they have like a couple of players that have been there and done it before and are without a doubt world-class players that are helping them, carrying the players that haven't done it over the line. You have your Trents, your Salahs, and your Van Dijks. And also Slot plays to the strengths of the team that he has.
But just the grass isn't always greener.
Arteta has gone away from playing to his players' strengths, and he has overthought it. And you are not Pep, so you cannot make a complicated system and hope that your world-class players make it shake, because they're not going to be able to do that. So it's not just about getting him the players. You can get him the striker, you can get him a winger, but it's not that simple, because even with the players that he has, he plays against their strengths. He just does. He doesn't play to Declan Rice's strengths. He doesn't play to Martinelli's strengths. He doesn't play to anyone's strengths, really. The only player that can succeed outside of the bullshit is Xhaka. He's the one player that I see day in and day out that is not affected by some of the things that Mikel does tactically. We need more players playing to their strengths. So that's outside of just getting him his best people. He still needs to improve. And I don't know why people feel like he will just wake up and understand how to play to his players' strengths when he gets a striker.
And we don't even play in a system where you can say just a striker gets in, boom. Of course, a striker makes hell of a lot. A striker would score a couple of these minimal chances, but you can't sit here and lie. Week in, week out, we are hearing and seeing we're doing relatively okay defensively and in midfield. Once we get to the final third, which is the hardest thing to do in football, is score goals, we fail. We're up against a juggernaut typically in Haaland. Them man had the machine against Salah. The least we can do, and these fans would have told you we got 91 goals, we shared the goals around and all of these things. And this is why I think you need to apply balance, because I think we're not at the standards we were defensively. We're still up there for clean sheets. I think we need goals. We're still up there for that. We're still up there for several things. It's the small and fine margins that we're never on the right side of. We're playing Merino up front. Two of our kids from Haaland have been two of our better players. We have not future-proofed this squad. As much as we're going to get onto the board, nobody comes in or out of this club unless Mikel Arteta sanctions it. I am not defending, well, I am defending Smith Rowe because he should have stayed, but Smith Rowe, Fabio Vieira, Eddie Nketiah left, right? Nobody came in. We all said, I promise you, if you go back to me and Jesse's streams in the summer, we said we went forward here and then we came back. So it's an illusion of progress. We signed no game changers and we didn't look after the depth. Now, Arteta is not alone. Clearly, he's not just alone. My whole thing is everybody's in it. So let's, before we move it on to the ownership, Jess, I want to get over the super chat. Journalists already putting stories out saying how many big clubs want Arteta if he left or got sacked, but they don't say which clubs. I do think he'd be in demand. I do think he would get interviews a bit like Edu. I do think he's rated in the footballing world, but I don't care about that. I only care if Arteta succeeds. But let's move on from Arteta, because I think his heart is in the right place. He's just moving mad, innit? And he does need criticism. Same way if we was winning, needs praise. Where are you at with specifically the players? We'll get onto the board, but the players, everyone or no one. Where are you at with the players?
I think like with the players,
love for the super chat, by the way.
They this does not release them from their failings this season. But I do think that like when you have massive pressure on you to win and you look around and you see that the club hasn't done enough, I think it's harder to get up for it, the fight that you need, when you also have that like doubt, that doubt that like, well, we've missed out so many times. What's going to be different? Nothing has changed with the team, nothing, and these players they may not be having the conversations online, but I know that these players are looking at the team and are probably confused and concerned that we haven't
improved. Rice in January backs up your point.
Exactly. And so I just think that, different players like with Villa, in January, they brought in Rashford and Asensio. These are two players that a lot of Arsenal fans would not have wanted, and I completely understand that.
Desperation settings. I would have had them. I would have had Morata. We were desperate in Jan.
But that gives you a new lease of life and gives an energy to the squad. And I just don't think we did enough. And I think the players look flat, varying degrees of flat. The flattest is probably Odegaard. The next flattest is probably like Martinelli. And then you have varying levels of flat. But I was going to ask this question the other day and I just deleted it. But who's actually had a good season this season? Like in comparison to 2022, 2023, which that is a good season for those players. No one. That's the answer.
Nah, that's harsh.
The answer. No one has had a good season. No,
not a single player.
No,
are we talking about Arsenal?
Yeah, I don't think any in comparison to the best that they can play.
I hear that, but then the collective, nobody. Yeah, that's what I did say. That I think there's been regression, but I think Raya's done his thing. Magalhaes has done his thing. This has probably been the shittest of the 3 years from Saliba, but Saliba's still been all right. Timber's been good. Who else? Saka until he busts his leg, of course. The two Haylenders in MLS and Wanyeri. I would cut a bit of slack to Partey. I know he's had some games, but he's been a bit more consistent than some. I don't think Rice has been terrible, but he's an enigma of his own. But I wouldn't put Rice there.
This season, no matter, and I'm his biggest defender.
Everyone else has been
no, because we've seen what players look like when they're playing well. There's a lot of questions around they're kind of.
Let us know in the chat as well, folks.
Varying degrees of flat. Even at what they're doing right now, Gabriel, Saliba, those players are probably the least flat. But it's all flat, all of it. Like when you're watching
collectively,
there's no energy, there's no belief, there's no anything. Soft factors matter. You guys know it. Your eyes are not playing tricks on you. You know when Arsenal look like a team that are going to rip somebody apart. We don't look.
We've only looked like that on a handful of occasions. West Ham away, Sporting, City, probably the two Spurs games. But you don't get brownie points for smashing up Spurs. But it's not enough.
But is it just that all the players are letting the manager down, or is the manager unable to get this team playing at a high level consistently? I feel like a lot of it comes down to the manager. I think that the style that we play doesn't encourage people to be creative, doesn't encourage people to think off the cuff, doesn't encourage fun, high octane attacking play.
There's no invention or intention.
There's nothing. It's just dead. It is zapped from the team. I think it comes from the way that Mikel has coached everything out of them. When we get to the final third, it is like they need a 2-week clinic with Arsene. Bad.
They wanted my boy Arsene gone, but be careful what you wish for.
Easy. They get into the final third and they're like, well, Calafiori, can you make something shake? It's bad. And I think people, because your eyes adjust to the surroundings that you're in. If it's dark, your eyes will adjust. And I feel like our eyes have adjusted to the darkness. But you would have a hard time outside of Gabriel and maybe Raya looking at it in Saka before he got injured, finding a player that's playing to their level. And you cannot have 3 or 4 players playing to their level. And
is there a correlation between when Gabriel Jesus got injured and this fall off?
I mean, we didn't look great even before. He was papering over a nice little crack there. But yeah, I mean, Gabriel Jesus, obviously we're missing him right now because we don't have anybody to play up there. And Marino, wow, he looked like a statue.
I feel sorry for Marino up there, man. I think he was okay yesterday, but you're not a striker. I can't get at you.
I genuinely feel like we have adjusted to the new darkness that we're in, and we watch games, and as long as we get the result, we have, a decent little play here and there, people will say that we're playing well. I don't think we look good against Wolves on the first game of the season. I didn't think we looked that great against Brighton. People were saying that we were waiting to the second half of the season to get
Oh my God, you just reminded me. Who goes in? Did you know how stupid some people are? Do you really think Mikel Arteta or these players are sitting there week in, week out? Oh, let's conserve energy for the second half of the season. Crap. Absolute BS. No. Then it's let's do the Dubai thing. Then it's blessings in disguise going out of tournaments. Then it's context FC. And there's a lot of contexts that apply. Injuries, red cards, all of these things play a part. But then there's also the conversation of what happened and what we done. People never want to just talk about it.
Yeah.
There's a thin line between getting it done or not for whatever reason. We want to act like winners when it suits us. We want to have high standards when it suits us. You want to gas up the manager when it suits us. And this ain't an attack on the gaffer. I think he's a great coach. I think there's a lot about him. I also think within the backdrop of the Kroenkes, which we're going to move it on to, there's a lot of self-sustained madness that collectively Arsenal do on and off the field. And Mikel Arteta, he's engineered his own downfall tactically. He still don't want to use young players. He's not changing the formation. And at this point, I don't really care if he changes the formation because it's done now, isn't it? Really and truly. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And again, Arteta is one thing, but the owners, because on one hand, the owners, we know what the Kroenkes are like. We spent 700 million. People will tell you that's dwarfed by other clubs, which is great. I want us to spend more, but if spending was everything, Chelsea would be doing what Liverpool's doing. United would have been back where they are. And the Kroenkes could say, listen, we understand all of that. Arteta, we never put a gun to his head to take the job. We never put a gun to his head to sign a new deal. We gave him left backs galore. We've given him goalkeepers galore. We broke our club record. We've done everything. We're giving him so much power. Bearing in mind, Edu employed Arteta. Arteta's having a say in who's going to be that. So it's like, how much, if anything, do you blame the Kroenkes? Because surely they have to get their heat as well, man.
I think and again, like I feel like they take the responsibility in terms of when you hire Mikel, you have already went in a certain direction that says that you could say, because at that time, that was a very, very unpopular choice in terms of where we were after sacking Emery. The last thing people expected us to do was hire a novice.
It just does not sound negative. The sun's not shining. The sun's not shining. Why would she tell you shining?
I'm not gonna blow smoke up your ass. Like, I'm not gonna say like everything is gonna be hunky dory. Like, we're in a bad moment. What we're gonna talk about is probably gonna be mostly negative. But I just think that, like, when you do that, you've already kind of told me that, I don't want to say you're unserious, but you're going in a certain direction, that none of us really thought we would probably go in. Then you doubled down on that by not getting the right people probably around him. Now, where the Kroenkes are not really responsible is maybe in the amount of money that they've sanctioned Mikel to have from the beginning. They did give him a certain amount of money from the very beginning in COVID times too, when there really wasn't a lot of money there. His first major window, there was no money. I feel like people forget that like during that time, nobody had fans in the stands. It was dark, like it really was. And he got Thomas Partey and Gabriel, two players that ended up being spine players for us for the most part. So he got those.
Remember them Arteta sexuals were saying Gabriel Magalhaes is the first one that Arteta is going to upgrade upon. Fair enough. I'll cut you. Crazy done.
I think they gave multiple windows. From that window, gave him like the 75 million. Then for several windows, we got like 100 million right off the bat. Then we went into the big window where we spent 200. In that time, you should have gotten a striker. You should have improved your attackers. We weren't able to do that. And so maybe the blind spot from the Kroenkes was the blind trust that he had in Mikel and Edu to get these things done, where both people were relatively like early days in their careers and didn't really have like the CV to probably make those decisions and make the best out of the money that we had. I do think that we made a lot of good signings. I think we made a lot of bad ones. And so they're probably more responsible for the lack of oversight and the lack of, like, if you were going to have a novice manager, you needed to have a world-class sporting director. And we had like newbie people in both jobs. We also have newbie people in Arteta's like coaching. Everybody in there is young except for Albert. So I think that's where the Kroenkes have maybe let the project down, is the lack of oversight and the lack of balance in terms of put a novice with somebody that really knows what they're doing. Don't put two novices together. You got Edu and Arteta, both kind of new. Then Arteta gets to hire his coaching group. Everybody is getting younger. Then you have a whole team full of young players. Nobody's ever done it before. What the fuck did you think was going to happen?
Do you think the owners care? Because obviously, on one hand, we have to accept the owners for what they are, self-financing. Clearly, I'm not a fan of KSC, but I can question my own logic, as I said earlier, with the amount of trust, quote unquote, that they've put in Mikel Arteta. When I consider how they run things, whether I agree with it or not, like, Surely, if you really cared, and I know there's probably very few Premier League clubs, football fans of clubs, apart
Yeah,
from
yeah.
I'd say Newcastle and them man that actually like it in it. But surely, if you care, you look at the summer and say, right, you're scrambling for Raheem Sterling. January, you've done nothing. Like, do the Kroenkes care? Like, do they care?
I think that, and that's the problem, is we got to the point where I think people put the cart before the horse and started saying like the Cookies are completely different. It was never going to be clear whether or not they had changed, because the PR is that now that Josh had come in and they've gotten full ownership, that they've just changed. But we were only going to see that when we missed out and how they reacted to that. And the reality is that I think they've reacted just enough, and they've operated in a way that makes me feel like as long as we get in top 4, they're kind of okay. Once we reach top 4, and they think that, because they didn't move in January this time, because I think that they looked at the table and said, yeah, we're right in there, so that's what it kind of feels like to me.
See the
What
PR, crazy.
is
How
this
the Kroenkes have turned it around at Arsenal after angry fan protests, August 2024.
Yeah, yeah. I think that they feel like we are going to be
It's
a
a company,
consistent top
man.
4 team, and they've kind of taken the foot off of the gas. So you could say in one way that, well, they've given you enough money, so you should have built the squad that could have won things by now, which is true. But even when you miss out, an ambitious owner is going to keep pushing, and they have put the foot on the brake, and that's scary. If we go into this next window needing to sell to buy,
There's gonna be that. We know now. Like there's PSR. We're not got PSR issues, Jess. It's us. It's us.
yeah,
And even to go back to go on.
they don't want to spend. They're in a healthy position now where they know that as long as they're in Champions League, the certain amount of money is going to come in, and that's fine. It's not about PSR. It's about whether or not they want to be ambitious enough to push, and they don't want to. And that's the problem that we have right now is they've shown their hands, and no amount of PR can change the fact that if you go in this January window, not buying anybody showed you all you needed to see.
And
That was
apparently Jason Ayto did something. Well, I hope in hindsight we get to see what he was planning. But for me, that just screams on brand. And
Jason.
Bulgarian Gooner, apologies, made a great point. I do think, Liverpool fans are clearly upset with FSG. And next summer will tell them anything they need to know if they don't. And I do think the parallels are quite the same. And I think them winning the league, the FFG in a negative way, they might sit there and say, let's not invest. But one thing I will give them, they did get Jurgen Klopp, someone who's skilled at working with them kind of things. They did have Michael Edwards. It goes back to what Jess is saying. We tried to do the novice thing, and it is romantic. At a stage in our season, it's romantic. We're going against the world, a team that's backed by an oil state. We're playing Marino up front. Arteta, everyone was saying you're not on it. But like in life, it gets ugly. And unfortunately, our season again is going to be titled What Ifs. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, fine margins, mighty ducks. Coach Carter is peak. Fuck the Kroenkes.
With this comment here about the FSG and there's no different, the biggest difference, like you said, was the Klopp thing. Like, we had an opportunity where we could have gotten Klopp, but of course, the timing with us is always wrong. We should have gotten Klopp. We ended up keeping Arsene for a couple more seasons because we were afraid to make change, and then boom, now they have him. Our timing is always off, and they also had a really good sporting director. I know towards the end it tailed off. I think it was Paul Mitchell or one of those guys.
If you get Mohamed Salah, no one can slide your ticket again. Like, if you get Salah that was labeled a Chelsea flop, if you're a tealer, and that's the thing when people say who do we get, and that's one thing that annoys me about our recruitment strategy. I know I'm a novice, I don't know what's going on, but it's like we half move serious. Declan Rice, this one, well, not even this one, that one, but we half move serious. Then we start differing. You can't, if you want to swim, you can't dip your toe in and out. You have to jump in and swim. We're half stepping. 100%. And we've got such a good foundation now.
Yeah, they got Salah and they got Mane, two players that were relatively off the radar. They were performing well where they were at. One at Southampton and one was he at Fiorentina? Where was he at?
Yeah, he went Italy.
Yeah, he was, and those are players that if we were linked to them, people would have been spitting up blood. But they could see the talent before it actually reached them.
Klopp actually wanted Brandt, so that's why you need someone that's promoted to say no sometimes to the gaffer. I'm sure Klopp got things right as well.
It's not the same because FSG at least get the right butts in the right seats to make footballing decisions. The Kroenkes have lawyers. The FSG had football people. Those are two completely different things. Their recruitment is leagues ahead of ours. It's leagues. It's not close. It's not. If we had to rebuy Saliba, we'd fuck it. We'd fuck it.
I hope not. I hope not. I hope not. Do you think Odegaard should lose his captaincy? I've been airing comments asking about that. If I'm honest,
I mean, I don't feel like this is like a bad conversation to have. I do think that it's a little
let us know your thoughts.
Off the importance. Like, I feel like,
sorry, Roma. Then in that case,
like
wherever he was,
Odegaard is not the captain anymore, and you give it to Gabriel. Are we winning the league? Probably not. So I don't think it's like that deep. I don't think that not being the captain means that it's okay for you to perform like shit. So yeah, but I do think that like Odegaard is definitely the new person in the spotlight, and he deserves a bit of it. If you take that away from Odegaard and give it to somebody like Gabriel, nothing changes unless you get a striker or something. It is what it is. But one thing that it would do would take some of the burden off of a player that I feel like is incredibly overburdened as it is, and he just doesn't have the type of captain. Like, we can say whatever we want, but this is what I say about Arteta. He doesn't play to people's strengths. That's the same thing with the captaincy. Odegaard was the most left field captain you could have put in there, and you brought him in and tried to make him into something else, or to change the way a captain is supposed to be, and it's okay to be this. No, you need to go get the player that's going to perform consistently all the time.
Give it to the maddest bastard in the team with the ugliest youth, man.
Exactly. And that's Gabriel. And if you're afraid it's somebody that, maybe it's the English barrier or something like that, give it to like a Rice or somebody like that that's used to being a leader. But giving it to somebody that's never been a leader, was surprised that he was even chosen, is quiet and is meek, was just another example of Mikel trying to make somebody into something else, or trying to change what that position is meant to be.
But what if Odegaard, let me be devil's advocate, yeah? Like, on one hand, Odegaard kind of sums up this youth project. We found the home at Arsenal, he's the poster boy. What if, like, we might not see it on the pitch, but what if he's shouting at man in the changing room, his name holds weight, he says jump, man is saying how high? What if he really is the captain like that?
He's not, because he's not, because Xhaka, I remember this was years ago, I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but Xhaka and
Norway captain as well,
Jesus, were there was like something that had come out that they were like frustrated or something when Odegaard became captain, and it was always Xhaka was actually a captain behind the scenes, but Arteta could not make him captain. He could not make him captain because of what happened with the Crystal Palace thing. And so ultimately, I do think that there were already concerns from some of the more senior players about Odegaard being the captain, because he doesn't say anything. Like, he's mostly like a by example, but it was always Granite. And this is why I'm saying, like, I know people don't like to hear it, and it burns me to say this because I did not like this player for so long, but the inability to replace Granite.
Some of us were Xhaka FC, boy.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna be so happy about this, but it's
they didn't replace Xhaka or Aubameyang.
We didn't replace that personality behind the scenes, and we didn't replace it on the pitch. And it was like a structural kind of thing. And once you remove that beam, the house has been slowly falling down ever since. And that doesn't mean that Granite is the best player in the world. That's not what I'm saying. But he was way more fundamental than people make it out to seem. And there have always been questions around whether Odegaard was a strong enough personality. You've removed the actual captain, and he's just there. It's, and it's just, yeah. And I love Odegaard, you guys know, but he should be
I hear that catch.
He should be he should be in a group of creative players that make us better, not our only creator. We have never had a player that was our only creator. And somebody was trying to kill me for this. And I was like, you actually have no idea what you're talking about. Because even when Cesco was our main guy, he was not our only creator. There was Gleb, there was Rosicky, there was Nasri, there were players like that. And he was feeding Adebayor and Van Persie. When Ozil
Man United fan, shut up, man. I hear it. It's your trolling, but shut up, man. I've managed. But anyways, go on, just man.
When Ozil was here, was Ozil our only creator? You had Ramsey, you had Jack, you had Santi, you had players like that. And he was feeding a Giroud that would be he would eat in this team. He would be much better than what we have now. Odegaard is our only creator in this
We
side.
should have bought Danny Welbeck in January, man. It's sad that it's a
That
big
doesn't
up
make
well.
sense to me. How can people look at that and say, yeah, but he's not doing his job? We have never had a creator that was the only one.
Because it's easy to do that. It's easier to do what you just. It's harder to do what you done, what people are doing in the chat. It's harder to think, which is why I always say on my YouTube channel, you don't have to agree with me. I love the fact that people disagree and agree. Life would be boring. I learn a lot from my chat. I always say, I don't tell you what to think, just think. It's easier to say, oh, but this one and that one and the third. I do have to ask though, is there too much stock on the captaincy? Because me, from I've seen,
So.
I saw Gallas wear the captain's armband for my football club. I know it's not serious. And the last 2 seasons, I didn't question Odegaard's captaincy to this extent. Everyone was doing their job, man. They're leading by example. People are shouting. No one cared.
When everybody was playing,
Jorginho was on the sideline doing all of that. Like,
when everybody was playing well, it was fine. When nobody's playing well and we're in a bad moment, the first person you look at is, well, this is the one person that gets no excuses but to perform well, is the captain. And so that's why there's a huge focus on him. He's no different than anyone else. He's flat just like everyone else, but he's not meant to have an excuse because he has the captaincy. Again, if you gave Gabriel the captaincy tomorrow, or if he's had it from the beginning of the season, mind you, I think Gabriel was captain when we lost to Bournemouth and we got the red card. So if he was the captain the whole time, would we be winning the league? No. So the captaincy is a vanity thing that I think you need the right person in just for the
everyone
vanity.
was a captain in the Invincibles. And not beyond ability, man, are just with it. Like Chelsea sides, there's bare captains. Liverpool sides, there's man that just stand up to be counted.
Yeah, if Vieira was not performing well, like that does not mean that Sol Campbell and Kolo Toure was just gonna lay down flat and not do their job.
The list goes on. All of them Spartans, man.
I think for fans, they want to see a yelly, shouty, typical guy, and Odegaard doesn't.
I can't lie, I want to do that now, man. We're doing too much woke stuff at Arsenal now. I love the inverted fullbacks and that, but we need traditional fullbacks. We need normal captains. We need a striker that just wants to score. We need to go back to basics for me.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I totally understand that. But I do think that people are kidding themselves if they think that if we had anybody else with the captaincy right now, that we'd be doing any better, because we're still not going to score goals. We still have one creator. Like nothing really changes except for it's going to make you feel better to see somebody else with it. Now, from the player's perspective, they need to take responsibility for their own play. But we do need probably a stronger voice just in general, because the manager is also like, it would be nice to have somebody like a Thiago Silva.
Let's go support Spurs. Dead that. You could go do that if you want. I'm not on that. It stays up till we freeze up. That's a good question. What do you think of that? That's a good question. Yeah. If you're just listening, would Odegaard have less pressure without it?
I think to a certain extent. I do think so. And I think he's overburdened. Like I do. So I would love it. I said it the other day to a friend. I was like, I would love for them to take the captaincy away from him, because one, they would realize that we're not going to just get magically better overnight because he doesn't have a piece of like an elastic band around his arm. But maybe it would take away some of the pressure from him, because he's not a player that's dealing with pressure particularly well.
But is that I hear you. You're not wrong. But if anyone should be able to handle pressure, surely it should be Martin. I know you weren't a main don at Madrid, but you was in Madrid. You've been probably since 13, 14, all the hopes from Norway on you. I remember and I'm sure you do as well, his first 6 months at the club and playing here anyways. Should he be a bit of a twofold question? Should pressure really do any of that much for him? And also, I might be being a bit reactionary because I love Odegaard, but has it raised in question that I wouldn't say he's not important to the side, but he's not with the Sakas and Gabriels and Salibas and them kind of guys. Like he could probably be a bit more of a squad or rotationary option.
I mean, if you want to go that far, you can. I would just say that because people have very short memories, we went through a period of time where he was not in the team and we couldn't win a game.
And we was crying for him.
And it was only recently that we lost our first game since he had been back. And we at least looked like a competent side again. We looked like a recreational team when he wasn't there, because we did not have anybody that could drop in, help us, go forward and all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I think what people are doing is they're overreacting. And I do see like a small shift that could happen where if you just didn't have one creator and you had multiple players that could do that, and you had a more simplified system that allows him to do what he does best, he would perform better. But we have very short-term memories. This was a player that was our player of the season twice.
Side note, Jorginho's still the best partner for Declan Rice. I feel I skipped over that for Forest, but go ahead.
He is. And he's also somebody that we couldn't even pass the ball without a couple of months ago. It's literally just this right now. People would trade him for a bag of chips because he's not playing well. But I think that's just, it is what it is. I remember last season when Xhaka got his new contract with the pay bump, and he wasn't.
People were saying he wasn't focused.
He wasn't performing as well as he could have. He was still getting the GA, but the performances weren't there. And people were saying that he needed competition for his position because he's just taking this big pay contract and he's not doing this and that. So I know how Arsenal fans are. They are very fickle. You're here today, gone tomorrow. Even if you've been good, you get no sort of like, there's nothing, just kick you to the curb,
Apart from the manager.
But I would love for there to be, if there was a player that we could bring in that could replace Odegaard and was better than Odegaard, I would take that because I care about Arsenal more than I care about him. But to replace Odegaard and to get somebody better, one, replacing him doesn't help. We need more. You need to supplement, not replace. And whatever player you're thinking of is in the top 1%. As much as you don't like Odegaard, just replacing him with any old Bob is not going to, as bad as he is right now, replacing him with any old Bob is not going to help us. It needs to be somebody that's better. And I feel the same way about Martinelli. It doesn't make sense to sell Martinelli and replace him with somebody that's just different. We need
Martinelli bench, Trossard bench, Havertz bench, Odegaard. We need a creative burden on, like someone to take the burden off you. That's why I can get the punch out.
Performs better. I would say play that player because I'm not a hater. If there's somebody out there that's better than Odegaard, we have improved significantly because he is really, really good. But that player, you guys, we're not getting Wirtz. We're not spending 100 million on Wirtz. We're not going to Bayern and stripping them of Musiala. So what is the priority? It'd be much easier to get Odegaard a better striker and to add more creativity to the team than taking him out and bringing in another creator for him to be feeding Kai Havertz.
What do you think of him as an 8 then? Because there is that talk, and I do hear the rhetoric, but then you do have Declan Rice as an 8. Odegaard could be moved there. Then obviously we can't talk about Zubimendi because you don't play for us, but you've got Zubimendi. Would that mean a shift? Because I go back a few years ago, I can't remember whatever year Lokonga signed, we played Brighton with Lokonga as a lone 6, and you had Odegaard and Smith Rowe as rotating 8s. I do sometimes want Arteta to just tweak things, but I'm sure you've been asked it. Where are you at with moving Odegaard? Because some say he's not a 10.
I mean, he's not a 10 right now because, again, like ever since Xhaka left, there's only 2 midfielders in there. There's only 2 players that have any sort of responsibility and build up to get us up the pitch. They don't connect to each other. Odegaard drops deep to the goalkeeper to receive the ball, to get us forward and to start attacks and to start us moving up the pitch. There's a lot less responsibility on the DM to do it now, which before the DM, when Partey was playing at his best, he was doing all that. Him and Xhaka were doing all that. And Odegaard was just hitting the pockets and, spraying the ball to different people. And he was only focused on creating, which is why he got 15 goals and 15 assists in one season. Now his role is diluted. His role is diluted.
Thinking about me. It's the haircut, man. Come on.
So now I just think that like replacing him, what do you want to replace? Do you want to replace him with somebody like a Wirtz? Because somebody like Wirtz is not going to do Odegaard's role. He's just going to be a number 10. So what are we replacing? Are we replacing him, or do we need to add a number 10 to the other side?
Or could it be a thing where like it's a Cunha thing where Cunha can play everywhere, but he can also play in that Odegaard role? Do you get someone that can mix and match? And when you find yourself in a situation like this with Odegaard, take him off the firing line.
Honestly, I think we have too many players that can play multiple positions. We need specialists in this team.
I hear that, but couple wavy man that can do like Ethan. He's wavy. He can play in all them roles. I don't think we're gonna sign the Odegaard thing.
Why would you buy Cunha to do a role that we already
No, I'm
know?
just throwing his name into there. I don't think we're gonna get. I think we need to look for a striker, a left winger. But I must admit, though, based on what you lot are saying in the comments and what you're saying and what I've seen in the last few weeks of Odegaard, if you ask me what we need to do in the summer, striker, a winger that can deputize for Saka and also play off the left, clearly a midfielder, sort out the goalies. I've always said since the start of the summer, I'd love a defender. But some of you have said we've needed a 10, and admittedly, this is why I like conversation. I've kind of aired it. I am now seeing what people are talking about. Could we do with someone? Which is, we all know Odegaard's the captain. He's not going anywhere. You're going to play week in, week out. Fabio Vieira, I don't know for your team. Ethan, I think you'll get minutes. Realistically, and I'm getting a bit scared, there is a certain man that's injured with a hamstring injury. If we sign a striker and a midfielder and Odegaard needs to drop out, he's nowhere near Odegaard on the ball, off the ball he is, it can get dark. You know who I'm referring to. So do we need that? Like, and that's what I'm saying, Cunha, because Cunha could do the thing off the left, be part of the squad, and play in the 10 if need be. Trossard can obviously play there.
What are you willing not to get then?
Pardon me?
What are you willing not to get in order to get Cunha? Because I like that idea, but then
I'm just saying his name as a like as someone who can do that rather than a specific. But I want a 10, but I need to see a striker and a left winger. I don't know if we're gonna go and get a winger, but I think them two positions and midfield is a priority. If you were to ask me 2 of those 3 positions, I would struggle as well.
And here's my thing too, is we're all talking about this in regards to what we want, but knowing Arteta and how hard-headed he is about playing this way, and knowing that we're going to identify like a Zubimendi to play the Jorginho role, which is essentially what he wants, I feel like the best way to spend the money is to make sure that we have the best options up front to supplement the fact that we're not going to have as much creativity that we want. Because that's just the reality, is the way that we play right now doesn't allow for creativity, because you have one creator that's also doing a bunch of buildup. Then you have Declan Rice, who that 8 role does not suit him at all. I'm standing on that flag in the sand. I don't like it. I think it's shit, but that's how we're going to play.
What, Rice in the 8?
Rice in the 8 sucks.
I can't lie. They're converting me. They're converting me. They're converting me. They're converting me.
Blocks. It's against.
They don't. Trust me. They don't.
It's in big games.
I used to think that. No, I used to think that. Just trust me. He's an 8.
It's ass.
He's an 8. He's an 8. He's an 8. He's not a 6. He's not a 6.
He's gonna play. That's where he's gonna play. And
he's an 8.
So the left wing and the striker that we buy have to be game changing. They have to be. They need to be able to.
Is Zubimendi that though? Because I rate him, but is he that?
That's
because that means Rice is gonna, unless Arteta changes the whole thing and goes with 2 8s and a lone 6 on occasion. Rice is staying in the 8, and the main reason I think he's an 8 in this Arteta system is I still think he's a 6. But some people say in the modern day you need to keep receiving up the centre backs. That's not Rice. Like, so where you at with Zubimendi? Is he a game changer then?
No, I'm talking about the attackers need to be game changers.
Oh, 100%. But
you're already assuming that our midfield next season is going to be Zubimendi, Odegaard, and Rice. And that midfield, even with Zubimendi in there, is going to require Odegaard to continue to drop in as an 8 and to Rice play high. We're in the exact same situation that we're in right now with just one different player, which is Zubimendi. He is not going to change our lives in the attack. Like, he's not. So those 2 positions up front with Saka, they need to be able to create on their own. They need to be dynamic. They need to be able to basically eat off of very little, because it's just going to be, that's what it's going to be. So, yeah, you can get a Cunha, but I don't know.
I just want a versatile Donny, man. Kudus would have been perfect. Cunha just stuck to me because we was linked with him. I just think we need, in an ideal world, like we get the striker, we get the winger, we get the centre mid. If you could get another wavy player that can fill in, because Cunha can play all across the front 4. I think we need a man like that. Big up Ethan for announcing himself on that. But yeah, I think we need it.
Yeah, but I would also like go back to the comment that you were just looking at, right?
Which one?
The one that you just went back to. It said we need Cesco, Wirtz, and something.
Where is it? I comment that again if you didn't. Big up the comment.
Yeah, like, oh, we need Cesco.
You brought them in. They're never commenting this frequently. Just comes on the stream. You lot can't stop talking. Look at me. Just
Cesco
look at me.
And Zubimendi. That would be great. It would be great.
That's
But
peas.
having just Wirtz and taking Odegaard off, because that's basically what you're suggesting, it doesn't solve that much, because if Cesco gets injured, which you need to assume that he's going to get injured, we're feeding Havertz. And so you're still going to have, I don't know if you guys have watched Germany play, but yeah.
When they bring on that full curtain.
Yeah, you need to have like a, so I kind of understand what people are saying. And if we could get a Wirtz in, that would be great. But idealistically, I still feel like you'd want to play Odegaard and Wirtz. I feel like that's still what you would want. But Odegaard,
The money you'd have to spend on Wirtz.
like
He's gonna want to play.
that, you guys, like he's not going to. The love affair with Zubamendi, the amount that we spent on Rice, the fact that Odegaard is our captain as well, that's going to be the midfield, whether you like it or not. So those attacking positions have got to be game changers. They have to be. They have.
Are we gonna get these game changes though? And like, how far does it go if we go as much like Cesco, Zubamendi, this one, that one, the names that we're consistently linked with? Yeah, we'll go all out. We don't get them. Is it cool to say we tried? Are these really game changers? Where would you be at with it?
I do think Cesco makes a huge difference, because I don't think Arsenal fans remember what it felt like to have an actual striker. That's the reality. I think, again, our eyes have adjusted to the darkness.
Eddie Nketiah got a hat-trick last year. We shouldn't have sold him.
Our eyes have adjusted to the darkness, and people are trying to convince themselves that Havertz is a great striker for us. He's been a decent Band-Aid. We had Jesus before that, who was more of like a piece of an ensemble of players that were all playing well. But when those players' levels drop, then you need somebody to take the burden, and he couldn't do that. And the last great striker that we had was Aubameyang. So to me, it's like, of course he would change things. Is he the finished article? No, but even in the state that he's in right now, just having somebody that gets on the end of that tyranny cross changes everything. The way people were gagged about the way that Marino played against Leicester is exactly what Cesco can do. You guys were excited about that. You could have that all the time, but oh, by the way, he could probably also do it against a West Ham and freaking Nottingham Forest.
Why don't you think people rate Cesco? Because some people, it's very conflicting. I don't necessarily think he's the answer, but I fuck with Cesco, and he, for our budget, it's making sense. Why do you think some people are not onto the guy?
I think that the Cesco is just not the sexy name that they're looking for. They need somebody that is rubber stamped by
the Newcastle lad,
the big mouths on Twitter. I think a lot of people have a hard time thinking for themselves, and they can watch a player play well. There are goals that I've seen Cesco score that I've also seen Isak score, but because it's not Isak and it's not this player and it's not this player, they cannot wrap their head around the fact that this is a good player. In a couple of years, he's going to cost 100 million. It's just obvious. Maybe not right this moment, but these are the same people that couldn't see Isak before he went to Newcastle. They just couldn't see it. We don't need a player that has 4 goals in La Liga, and look what he's become. So there's nothing wrong with getting somebody before they're the finished article. There's nothing wrong with that, especially because they can contribute now. But we're talking about, do you guys believe that he would not have scored a single goal against West Ham? Do you think that he would have not been able to create a single chance or get on the end of anything against Nottingham Forest? Of course he could.
Are you scared that he feels that he wouldn't play ahead of Kai Havertz?
No, I don't think that, but I don't think that's how it went. I think I think that Arteta, when he's not 100% sure on you, he doesn't try to woo you like he tries to woo other people. And if I'm looking at it, and you can see Arteta's patterns. If he doesn't have to change it, he's not going to. So if you tell him, well, we have this guy, Kai Havertz, I'm looking at you, 1, like you're unserious, and 2, I'm looking at your pattern, and I'm sure my agent has said that, yeah, but he pretty much keeps the same starting 11. So you're not going to play. And we've seen players play well and go right back to the bench because he wants to play Havertz or he wants to play so-and-so. So as a 20-year-old, I want to start every game. I'm not going to sit on Arsenal's bench while Havertz is, doing whatever. That's not what I'm going to do. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that at 20 years old. If he was like 24, I'd be like, but 20, and this has probably been a really good thing for him. Now, come to find out, he would have probably gotten some playing time for us, but, why would he risk it? So I don't think it's a bad thing. The problem is now Cesco is going to cost even more this summer.
And if you don't get him, I don't want to hear nonsense. At Arsenal, I don't want to hear nonsense. If Isak's your guy, or Cesco's your guy, or Gyökeres is your guy, if I don't see a striker in the summer, and I don't even believe it, as I said, I'm at the stage just seeing is believing. So I don't know. People, get a couple of questions in. I'm gonna get a couple of questions off Jess before I let you lot go, and I'm gonna ask her about the sporting director thing before I forget. But before that, I've read over this. Big up Valera, appreciate you. Big up. Make sure you're following FamZone TV. Make sure you lot are subscribing. Mods, do your job. But Jess, do you think Mikel Arteta should speak his mind a bit more? I think this conversation kind of means that, see how you saw Conte at Spurs a bit angry about what they're not doing. Should he speak his mind a lot more?
If he speaks his mind, he's getting sacked. So would I love for him to be more transparent? Maybe, but him being transparent is not going to tell me things that I don't already know. Arteta is not going to sit up there and put any heat on the Kroenkes because that's not what he's there for. Part of the reason why he has the job is because he does the Kroenkes bidding. So it's twofold. And if Arteta leaves Arsenal, he will never get a more cushy job. He will never get a job, what do you guys call it? Like work experience? He's never going to get another work experience with tons of funds and no pressure again. So it's twofold. You guys, we don't need Arteta to tell us that the Kroenkes let us down, or that the transfer team let us down in January. We don't need him to tell us that. But you
just
also
need a pair of eyes.
Him too, because he wants to keep his job. Again, he is the second highest paid manager in the Premier League. He has a very cushy job. Okay, so he's not going to speak on the Kroenkes, and you don't need him to tell you that they let him down, or they let mostly the players down. Because those are the people that I feel like are the Salibas and the dejected look that he has, the way that Rice and Gabriel look, those are the people that were let down, so he knew what he signed for. He's there because the Kroenkes are not going to have to fight with him.
And I think and this is why I said at the start, it's a relationship of convenience. I do think Arteta has been done dirty by the Kroenkes, but it's a relationship of convenience. Nobody's hands are clean. Word to Harry Simeon, it's like everybody's hands are on a crime. Everyone's fingerprints at the crime scene, man. It's joint enterprise. What do you make of this? Because we've had a great conversation, but David Ornstein, no disrespect, David Ornstein or The Athletic, and this doesn't confirm anything, but it's almost predictable. When Arsenal are in a disappointing period or have had a disappointing performance or result, there's something in relation to some sort of changes. Apparently, Arsenal plan to appoint new sporting director in March. Ornstein said 3 hours ago, Arsenal plan to appoint a new sporting director next month and are in the result of process of whittling down candidates before their final decision is reached. Long story short, this even mentioned that we use some external recruitment people. It said we're not onto Luis Campos, and it said a few names, man. It said Dan Ashworth. It's saying Jason Ayto still there, Mr. Bertra, who's going to leave Atletico Madrid, Roberto Alabi, Thiago Scuro of Monaco, and obviously my man, who we just mentioned, man. So yeah, what'd you make of that?
This is probably the most important signing that we will make in the next 12 months. Like, this is the most important thing, because if this person is not right, that whole summer window that you guys are dreaming about is going to fall apart. It needs to get done now so that the plans can, because Arsenal are always talking about, well, we got a long-term plan. Well, this person is going to be playing catch up, so it can never be Ayto. He should not be in the frame.
Why? He's been doing great work. Shouldn't we give him a chance in terms of self-development? Arteta was given a chance. Surely all you need is a chance in life. You started a YouTube channel and people gave you a chance by subscribing. Shouldn't we trust process?
I think Arteta likes him because he's going to run all over. But those names that I'm looking at, I would probably say that the only ones that I would consider seriously are Ashworth, Olave, and Berta.
Why Ashworth? Let's start there. Why Ashworth?
Because I can see tangible evidence of what he has done at Brighton and Newcastle to get those two clubs to where they are. I can see players that he bought, players for what they were sold for, and so we know what we're getting. Did he say that he wanted Southgate for Manchester United? Yes, but that never happened. He was overruled, which should happen in some circumstances. But he's somebody that you could see in this league that he knows how to build good sides. Newcastle is a club that has players that we would take right now. And Brighton have players that we would take right now. And they, you know, especially in Brighton's circumstances, he actually, like, they sell well. So he's somebody that I would look at. At least Olave is somebody that we could recognize has brought in decent players for Sociedad. He would
Worked with us
be
as
on
well.
my list.
What is that to Sociedad?
Yeah, he brought Isak, you know, so he knows the players and he would know, you know, probably he'd work probably well with Mikel because they seem to have the same ethos that they, for some reason, they're just obsessed with players in that region. And then you have somebody like Berta, who at the very least, I can see that he knows how to build a Champions League level side up against Barcelona and Real Madrid, which is no
Rodri and them man there.
exactly. So those are the only three I would consider. The other ones is like just whatever, you know, but just get it fucking done. And so we can start moving. But Arteta probably wants Ayto. And
Shouldn't you? Apparently, he's taken up the baton in a terrible January period, and he's speaking about getting in Zubimendi, and he's impressing. Shouldn't you want Jason Ayto? I'm 39 years of age. We all love homegrown players. Like,
you don't
are we being harsh?
You don't think like the people that we've already mentioned, like the other people, would be able to get Zubimendi to Arsenal? I think that the thing is that they want Arteta.
I think Ayto's got unique qualities.
I don't care about that. I need somebody that knows what the F they're doing. And so I'm taking Berta, I'm taking Olave as like the last choice, and I'm taking Dan Ashworth because it's just like the Ollie Watkins thing. Arsenal fans, oh my gosh, Dan Ashworth, I don't want him. Da, 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 da. Y'all are bougie, and we're not in a position to be so fucking bougie.
But you don't think there's courage? He took over in January where he could have said, "No, mate, I don't want to take the role." He's stood up to be kind.
I mean, what has he really done?
He's already been here before as well.
And anybody that's been a part of our recruitment for 10-something years is probably somebody that doesn't need to be here.
And look. Ayto has presented a plan for the summer and beyond, and is waiting to discover where he gets the role permanently. So Please
don't. Nope. Get somebody from outside that understands how to build a Champions League level side. Go get this guy. If he can do
you feel he's going to bang with these men? Because they're not going to get to puff out chest. We had Sanye and Mislintat and them.
If he can deal with Simeone, he can deal with Mikel. I need somebody.
Yeah, but Arteta's going to run to his dad, the Kroenkes, and get his way.
Honestly,
Dad, I want Kai Havertz. Edu wants Douglas Luiz.
I don't care. I really want somebody from outside. I think hiring from within constantly is why we don't get anywhere. And people that have a connection to Arsenal. Arsenal, as much as I love this club, is becoming synonymous with failure. And so I don't want somebody who's been in this. We need somebody that has a different perspective on how to be successful. And so I don't want to hear anything about Jason Ayto. I don't want to hear about Nobu Siki.
You don't think Ayto's been successful? He was there with Edu helping with the rebuild.
No, I don't. He's a number 2. And no.
But you've got to be a number 1. Arteta was a homeboy. He's now the manager. Like, we have more opportunities.
You know, I don't want anybody else that's like a novice. So I don't need telling this guy what to do.
Well, apparently Dan Ashworth. So you want Dan Ashworth? Foxy has said Paul Mitchell called out Ashworth saying things were not fit for purpose, and you can see he was spot on when he hasn't been able to sign these last 3 windows. So you're getting that poor homegrown Jason Ayto and bigging up this done. It's not nice, Jess. He's one of our own. We could make a song about Jason Ayto. Saka and Jason Ayto.
As a Newcastle fan, I remember the first time that we brought him up, Foxy was not like loving the Dan Ashworth stuff, but even outside of like Newcastle, which I don't know, I just feel like he has enough of a track record where you could see it. And again, if we can't get the best of the best, you need to get somebody with at least a little bit of a track record. So
we don't buy superstars, we make them.
This hipster thing that we're doing, this hipster thing where everybody that we want needs to be something that we have to squint through, and we need somebody to write a thread about what their potential can be. I don't want that. I need it written down in plain English.
Campos, man. But it's his name said they're not into him, but Campos would have been lit.
They're like, no. And I'm like, of course you don't want him because he's so accomplished that Arteta couldn't chat to him. Like, you know, so
he's not on foolishness. Yeah. And that's actually my biggest fear, because if these men come to this club, then I do think the Kroenkes have to say it's a level playing field. Arteta will win some debates. You will win some debates. I don't want it to be the other thing. My final question for you then, Jess, before I let you get out of here. Yeah? In hindsight, I'm not saying Edu was perfect, but do you think Edu felt like this was coming? Like, you lot are fumbling the bag in the summer, Arteta's getting more power, we need to go in a certain direction, I'm cutting. Like, do you think in hindsight we was harsh?
I mean, I don't think we were harsh on some of the things that he's done, because I think the biggest problem with Edu is that whatever options that he was bringing Arteta when he couldn't attain the number one option wasn't what Mikel wanted, or ended up being somebody that was close to an agent that he has connections to, and the agents that he has connections to are not the top ones. You know, we're getting Kia Jarapshin leftovers, and so but that
We're not
also
putting the piece down for his bougie players, though, man.
That comes with having a sporting director that doesn't have great connections, and that was Edu's, I think, biggest flaw, is that he didn't have the right connections to get us into conversations with the right players. But when people were trying to convince themselves that Edu just dumped us off three months into the season because he wanted a better job, that's not how it works.
It was brewing, man.
Yeah, he wanted to go because he had lost whatever battles in the summer. And no, it should never be Nico Williams or Raheem Sterling. But if Arteta's so desperate for Nico Williams and you can't maneuver, and he's so desperate for this goalkeeper, and you spend all your time in Spain trying to convince these players to come, and you fail, and then you're like a week away, yeah, you're going to be left to the elements. And Edu doesn't have the right types of relationships. So I think it's twofold, that Arteta's very rigid on his number one targets. And if Edu can't bring suitable backups that Arteta trusts, then we just go with nothing. And so that's everybody's a problem there. But him leaving us was never like he just got a better job, guys. Like, be serious. Like, he felt disrespected and like his voice was not heard. He knew I wasn't going to get the CEO position, and so he dipped on us before we even could get somebody else in the seat, before the January transfer window, in the midst of trying to find a coach for the Arsenal women's side. That is not somebody that just wants another job. That's not how corporate jobs work. You get an opportunity to like finish out, tie things in a nice neat bow. He said, peace out, fuck you guys, that summer window was too rough.
I'm trying to find the article from The Athletic, but I'm not finding it. It said Edu Gaspar felt that, you know, we weren't maximizing the summer market, and he was frustrated with what we was trying to do, particularly Mikel Moreno. So could you argue he had the right idea, he just didn't have the power?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that he had other ideas, and Arteta strong-armed him. You know, Arteta, like, as much as people try to say that he's been let down, it's well documented from people that we trust that he pushed for Calafiori, he pushed for Marino, and he pushed for Kai Havertz. All three of those signings you can look at and have questions around whether or not those signings have moved us in the right direction. I love
What if the same happens with the new guy as well?
Well, here's the thing is, it goes back to the conversation around, well, should we get somebody better? You know, I'd rather go with the devil I know. But if you already know that that's not working,
that's a good point,
then you need to fail fast. Get somebody else in. If that doesn't work, go again. That doesn't work, go again. It doesn't make sense to just stick with what you have because you're so scared. We make no decisions because we're so scared. And where's that gotten us?
That is a decision in itself.
Yeah, we're white knuckling, staying where we're at and just hiring from within because we're so scared. I don't know what has hurt this club so much where they just do not have the ability to make big decisions without all this nonsense, but it just feels like they're just white knuckling what we have, and we're not moving forward because they're afraid to make the decisions that are going to take us in the next direction. Pepe should not be keeping us from buying big players in attack.
We splash peas. We just don't splash peas when it's evident quality, man. Like it seems like there's risk off when it's players that aren't evidently going to improve us, and then it's very cautious of players that you can see are quality, which is flipping jarring, man. It is jarring. Before I let you get out of here, yeah, last question. You can answer it very briefly. PSV next week. Any optimism?
No, because we can't score. So no, unfortunately. The Champions League thing is so dark because we've waited so long to be in this competition, and we were showing up in a very unserious way, which is so heartbreaking because it's like we were out for like 7 seasons. You'd think when we showed up, we finally got the invitation back, we would have came with our best attire. We would have shown up with our Louis Vuitton and stuff, and we're showing up with whatever the fuck we got going on. So Yeah, I think not really. Do I have optimism? No. I'm not sure that this team has it in them to get up for what it would take. And I'm just glad that we didn't get, Feyenoord or whatever. Because the last thing we needed was the snake to take us down. So
Wenger bigged him up. I mean, all I'll say in the champs is it's a vibes thing, isn't it? Like, by God's grace, we get through PSV, whether it's Atletico, Real Madrid, we can't even think of that yet. But it is what it is, man. I'll just be drinking alcohol and then just enjoying it. In fact, no, I won't. It's
yeah,
Ramadan, but like,
and,
just enjoying things. It's horrible, man. Jess,
it
you got
is.
any content to come out?
And next content.
Yeah, no, go on. You can finish your point. I'm just asking you. Like,
The only
don't
thing I
cut
was
off.
gonna say
We
is
love listening to you, Jess. We love your voice. Speak.
thank you. The
Yo,
Bulgarian
definitely
is saying
welcome.
that Arteta gets no blame for the summer, or Arteta gets all the blame and Edu doesn't. And I'm not sure if you're talking about the chat or you're talking about what we're talking about. But if you heard that Edu takes no blame, then you weren't listening, because I said it was everybody has
Must
a
be the
part to
chat.
play. I think what you want to hear is Arteta was let down. And you cannot have been let down when you pushed for Calafiori and Marino with limited funds. That's you. You were pushing for that. And
Everyone
so
played a part in the fuckery, man.
exactly. So not wanting anyone and ending up with nothing at times because you don't want to go without your number one choice is also detrimental, because if you did that in January because you wanted Ollie Watkins, you didn't get that, which is the War's problem, but then you didn't want a body. And instantly after that, Martinelli, Kai Havertz go down. So Arteta does have to take some culpability, and I don't know why
As well.
that section of the fan base has a very hard time like not martyring him. They act like he's a child that's been left out on a doorstep for somebody, and he has no way to live life, and he needs somebody to pick him up. He is so strong and so intertwined with the big decisions that are made in this club that you cannot separate him from the mistakes. So
Everyone takes the L's and the W's, man. Maybe on this individual case, it was this guy, it was that guy. I do think at times Arteta has been let down, and I think at times he's let himself down. And I do think Edu fucked up a lot of the time. But then I look back in hindsight, I think Edu, they were chasing him forever, and I think he made his decision. And I think the questioning thing with Edu personally is, even though we know it, the Raheem Sterling signing was the first. He didn't even say it about Neto. Raheem Sterling signing was the first time I've heard Edu and anyone not be anything but diplomatic when we signed people. Said, to be fair, we didn't plan to do it for obvious reasons. We know that we didn't plan to do it, but I felt that was quite damning. And maybe in hindsight, it was almost this. When you leave a job, you're like, I'm leaving anyways. You kind of don't care anymore about certain things you're doing. So I don't know, man. But the good thing about Edu leaving is it is one less pillar for people to blame, really, at least until the next guy comes in. A man said Arteta read the art of war, appear weak when you're strong. I read way too much, man.
It's so true, Mikel. He's so good at playing the game. Like, he's a very good maneuverer. Like, he talks a good game. And I think a lot of people don't look at actions and they only go by what he's saying. And the results on the pitch should show you that at least maybe you should dig a little bit further, because we're not winning anything. And that in itself should show you that it's not going right. And I don't know why people have to just like, but Arteta said, I don't give a fuck what he said. Look at the results.
Amen.
I don't
say that again and again and again, man. Like, for me, the gloves are off. I got time for you in certain regards, Arteta. I don't have time for you in others. If anything connected to the club, I have the most excuses for the players, but I'm past that. The gloves are off. Arteta, the board, the players, you need to hold smoke. And the only way you escape smoke for me this season is if the ridiculous happens. Yeah, if you win the Champions League, it's still papering over the cracks, but it's party mode. We're gonna smoke. So, you know what? Let's keep the PR image going. We're gonna be doing the most if he wins the champs, but it's not gonna happen. Everybody needs to hold smoke in that. If next season, me and Jess will be sat here giving everyone their flowers. You think I don't want to sit here and say Mikel Arteta is the best in the league and the world and do this and that? I want to be like what United fans were like back in the days, where you would ask them what football is better, and they're just so stupid. They'll say this one won the Prem. Imagine if Xhaka wins a Prem or a Champs. They don't want us Arsenal fans to be really shameless. On the best of days, man, are shameless. So, yeah, man, we're going to have to see, bro.
Yeah, and I want those things too. I'd much prefer Mikel just make it work. but I don't want him to make it work so badly that I'm just going to pretend like there shouldn't be questions around him as the manager.
Arsenal FC at the end of the day.
And that's just the truth, you know, so yeah.
We'll have to see. What content have you got to come out? Are you back tonight?
Oh my God.
Or is there still a bear with me thing?
Yes, like I feel like
The streets are missing you, man. They want to see you.
Okay, well, I have like a meeting in like 20 minutes. And then after that, maybe I'll do like an impromptu thing at like 8 p.m. if you guys are interested.
What time is that in over these sides?
8 p.m. your time.
Oh, shit. Yeah, 8 p.m. Go watch She Knows Arsenal, innit?
Yeah.
Again, the title's in the links in the title.
You guys can hear me, for longer.
Stop looking for excuses, man. Get back on the train, man. They need you. They need you. They need you. But I'm sure a lot of you agree and disagree with what we're talking about. Hit the like button, subscribe. Obviously, Jess has been doing the rounds. You know, she was on what other platform was you on? You was on someone.
Yeah,
today.
I was on Judge Mo's channel doing the.
So go check out that video as well.
So yeah, we were on there.
And as for myself, boy, what have I got next? I got Gooner at 6 p.m. So that will be funny. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe.
Gosh. That's gonna be.
Yeah, I'm just gonna be shameless and blame him for everything, and he's gonna do the same, man. But it's an escape from reality.
You, because he tried to get me the other day, like maybe a couple weeks ago, actually, about like, because we were having a conversation about like, were we ready to start the season? And I was like, I think we're ready to start the season because with what we have, we should be able to beat Brighton and Wolves and these guys. And he tried to quote tweet me and said, "You said we were ready for the season." I'm like, because I didn't anticipate us not doing shit. That's a
big up Gooner Lee. He's an alcoholic, man. That's what being bold will do to you. It makes you do mad things, say mad things, man. Lee's a madman. He's a madman.
What time is it? What time is that?
Pardon? 6 p.m. UK time.
Okay, I'm gonna.
But I know he's gonna be on Black Man timing. I'm hoping. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm hoping. We need to get the show going with all three of us because both of you have sins.
Yeah, we should.
Both of you got sins. Both of you got sins. I still remember.
Have no sins.
Listen, I'm not going to say anything. You got sins. You got sins. You got sins. I forgive everybody. because eventually they come to realize, innit? People were telling me Smith Rowe couldn't have added nothing. People were saying Gabriel Magalhaes is not a key player. I don't ever. And by the way, yeah, don't let Gooner Lee lie to you about Raya because he was doing British Defence League for Aaron Ramsdale. He was on some Brexit means Brexit.
To Raya, I was like, the way he was holding on. I was like, you need to let that go.
Yeah, let it go, man. Ramsdale's not the hill to die on, man.
He's not. He just doesn't fill me with any confidence, you know. He doesn't.
Hey, that's a good British accent. Rah. You've been working on that.
Really?
You've been working on that on the sly.
No, I don't work on it. I just mimic you guys sometimes here and there. Because I know you guys do the same thing with us.
We don't do that with you lot. You lot just think you're the most important people in the world, like. You lot think you're the connoisseurs of
that. I think it's mostly like you guys are more like obsessed with what we're doing.
We're not obsessed with you. You don't think you're like the Liverpool of black people. If I'm honest, you don't think you're Liverpool top of the league. These times you don't even know where you're actually from. You're just American.
So much. You guys are like constantly looking at our stuff. Like it's
what is there to look at? That's American.
Oh my gosh, our TV shows. Our shit, y'all are.
What TV shows?
Y'all staying up to watch our Super Bowl. What?
We don't. I stayed up to watch Super Bowl, but that's a new thing. You lot stay up to watch our football clubs.
Just complain to like, oh my gosh, Kendrick Lamar, he didn't do anything. So I can dance and da.
Now pick up Kendrick, but it's tired. Super Bowl's tired. It's tired. It's fun to watch, but it's tired. The Super Bowl. I actually like watching the NFL. The Super Bowl show's tired. Big up the message behind it from Kendrick Lamar's tired. Kendrick Lamar's not even that good of an artist anyways, but that is for another day.
That's hate. Oh my God.
America's overrated, man. We don't want to be like you lot again. Heavy influence, but what?
And he is very special to us.
Whatever they say about us copying America or wanting to be like America, you lot wake up every day to watch our football, so it's done. It's done. It's done.
We really don't. I am an anomaly.
You don't stay up. You don't stay up. I got bare Americans in my comments. Big them up. They definitely stay up. I'm tuning in from 3 a.m. and oh my God, from Kansas and this and that. Shout out American Gooner. You lot are capping. The galley from America. Yeah, I mean, Atlanta looks lit. We'll give you lot that, but we don't bread you lot. We got better musicians. Our music's more organic.
You have better musicians.
Now we do.
The way that you guys sound when you rap. I can understand why you guys sing in an American accent because it sounds.
Who
weird.
sings in American accent?
All of your artists.
Adele's better than anything you got.
And then you're like, oh, they're British? That's fucking crazy.
So why is Drake always over here breading?
Because you guys are easy to take money from. Because you love us.
But I don't love you lot. Like, okay, that was a good.
Well, we actually no, we can't actually. I'll give you that. We can't claim Drake because he's actually Canadian.
No, that's you lot. You lot sort that out over there, man. You lot the reason our football club's in this piece of shit. So what we say now?
What?
Kroenke's are American.
Oh my gosh, that's so mean.
We got Adele, bro. You think I don't know? America has better rappers, but we're over here, they're over there. We're doing this, innit? We're doing this. Do you know how much questionable things Americans do? I heard you lot just about got contactless.
That's for sure. But we're a good time and we're charming, you know. So it's a part of our charm.
What's the accent? You lot don't even know your actual culture like that, but that's for another day. I ain't even trying to go into all of that.
Well, at least I'm not eating beans on toast, and there's that.
Beans on toast is better than bare American things, man.
Oh
bare
my
American things.
God,
Whatever you lot are getting high blood pressure and that is tired. Like it's tired. You lot get gulp and that. Ooh, I'm American. We have collard greens. Oh my God, no one else has had mac and cheese before. Crazy. You lot overrated, man. All you lot do is deep fry stuff. It's tired.
You think all we do is deep fry things?
Yeah.
When's the last time you've been here?
Years, actually. Minnesota.
No. Minnesota?
Yeah. Up in New York, Minnesota, Florida.
Minnesota. That's so okay. Cool.
Yeah, what? And you're from like LA. I bet you're from the tired part of LA as well, man. I know you're not from the trenches, like the wavy part.
Not from the trenches.
Yeah, you're probably from where all the I was gonna get myself cancelled, but the more affluent folk.
Yes. I am from the suburbs, yes.
Was you the only black girl in school?
Yes.
Okay, we'll leave it there, man. Because I'm gonna get myself cancelled. Hit the like button, subscribe, follow Jess. Any last words?
I said what I needed to say. I don't
say that.
Post, and that was the last thing I was gonna say. Because we know
Skepta's better than anything America's produced as well, but now free Lil Durk, and that's about it. Peace. You always